Hello, I am the Talker101 and I'll be providing a custom model import tutorial. I'll be using a lot of references to other tutorials, and I'll be using a number of tools. So first off, I have a list of tools that will be necessary for the various types. So for the various versions of imports, you'll be doing full shrink wrap, full RFC assembly, and a hybrid. For the full RFC assembly, you'll need DrinkERPK, the mesh importer script, the RFC assembler, hex editor tool like HXD, paint.net, Blender, the Blender add-on. For the shrink wrap, you will need DrinkERPK, paint.net, the RFI assembler, maybe, and the Blender add-on, and the hybrid combo is the same as the RFC assembly. These tools can be found in the Exanima Discord Council of Conservers, and here is the Discord link. I will have the regular Discord link provided in the related website. So to preface, make sure to save anything that you're modifying so that you don't have any data loss, and that you don't need to re-download the game or verify the files when you're working on this. Back to the tools, you're going to find a lot of these in the linked in the server. Make sure to ask if you can't find them. A lot of these are Drinky tools, so they're all in like one area that you'll download from. And there's the Blender and Paint.net, which are like applications, external applications that are their own things. Those are needed for obviously doing stuff. The mesh exporter script will be in the server. There are also some video tutorials which I will show, and they help a lot with just doing basic manipulation. The Blender add-on can also be found in the server. I guess I should just say the things that are not from the server are this hex editor tool, Blender, and Paint.net. Those are their own applications that we use as utilities. So just an overview of the methods. We have a full shrink wrap, which is very low quality, but is also easy to do. We have a full RFC assembly, which is a high quality. It's very high quality, but it's also unstable, and it has issues with jittery legs, and it is difficult. The hybrid combo is stable. It is high quality, relatively speaking, not as much as the RFC assembly, but it is, of course, usable, and it is, of course, a little bit more complicated than the RFC assembly. And with enough work, you can, too, make your dreams come true. So moving on, I have two main tutorials that I used for in case you have anything that you need to work on. This custom models import is pretty useful as like a part thing. I found the Bakelor's texture section was very useful, as well as understanding what DDS is, and then creating the RFC data. And the rest of this is just very specific, so you just go from here to here, just kind of go over this, how do you see what Damien does, and learn from that. And this is only if you have a reference model that you're using to make a new model, in-game model. And if it has multiple materials, you can use something like this, and you can make something more useful here, though I will be doing a modified version of this tutorial just to keep it easier dealing with certain parts of the whole thing. So here we have the human base. This is just how the common body parts is set up. This includes the monsters, though the fail does have a tail. So I'm going to skip over a lot of redundant steps that Damien goes over. But here I have a model of the two pieces. You'll want to resize this one so that they're of a similar height. And in my tutorial it says you want to go over and like mock the pose of the model you're referencing by taking the pieces such as this and moving them to overlap like so. If you have armature, this is a lot easier. So you'll want to do this for all of your parts just so that they overlap a lot more. So for example, this arm should be moved forward, and these legs should be separated a bit more, and you'll do this for a lot of it. You'll also want to check the face orientation. So you'll go here into this setting area, you'll go into face orientation, and you want to make sure that your model is facing out red. I don't know what that exactly means, but I know that in this case the model, your model, the model you're going to base off of is going to be red, and this here is blue. So you're going to want to select the entire model in edit mode, go to mesh, normals, and flip, and now they are both facing the same orientation. I'm skipping steps right here, but such as not fully orienting this. But you're going to want to take, after you've done all of that, you're going to want to take this and start cutting it into pieces. So such as the body part, you press P to separate the meshes, and you're going to want to follow how they do it here. See how like this is at the wrist, this is at the elbow, this is at like a line at the shoulder. The shoulder piece has a ring where it is like always around. The head is separated at the middle part of the neck. The chest is separated from the rising point of the belly. The belly is kind of like at the two rising points of the chest and pelvis. The pelvis is at the lowering at the decreasing point with the belly, and it's at this sort of like upper in the front, lower in the back. It includes the buttocks, and then with the legs, they include like the top part of the thigh. They do not include the gluteus maximus. And they separate the knee, the lower legs. They kind of overlap. This will include another section, but here you will do. You'll cut off kind of like here, presumably, and then for the feet, you'll also cut off here at the ankle. And this is the tutorial for the full RFC assembly. This is just kind of like, if you do this, you'll know how to do a lot of other things. And this is how this will look. You can just turn this face orientation off here. So this is my leg replace model. Just ignore that for now. Here you can see the head has been cut up into many pieces. I have also named them individually, such as 01 pelvis, 08 belly. Ignore this. This is just a redundance thing. 09 chest, and it all exists for all the pieces. And in my other parts, it included the legs. Though because of the leg replace stuff, I had to sort of ignore them. So like in Damon's tutorial, you'll open up the UV editor, and you can select on like this model. And then you can go into edit mode, and here you can see the UV islands and the UV maps, where this is all kind of separated. You're going to want to make sure this is happening for your model. You're also going to make sure you only have one material for this entire model. Every piece is using material whatever. This is important for when you do all the mesh exporting, and all the meshes are going to retain their UV maps at these locations. And you're going to want to make sure they don't overlap so that you can retain the usability of this model. So getting back to that, it's important that you know that your model has only one material. You're going to want to follow this tutorial for that, and to make sure you have one model at the end. Make sure to save it after you have that one model, and save it if you use a normal version of this kind of like thing. Yeah, I'm not going to go over how I did this, but it's easier once you make the material, because then everything is distributed properly, and when you output it to the game will use these UV maps, and it'll all render properly once you have them made. With the leg replace, it gets complicated, but we'll be there. We'll get there. These naming conventions are important for the game, how the game recognizes them, and like the parenting data and stuff. So I think we will move on to that next. So this is my modified exporter. I used a form of it called it's like mesh exporter or something. Import models Exanima R6. I think they're at like R7 or 8 or something. But I used a modified version. This works for me. You'll want to make sure you have the name, the header parent, and the material name, so that they have the skin human or whatever it's called in the base that you're modifying. Over here we have the human base. We look at the pelvis, it has a material called skin human. You'll want to copy that over to here, and then this parent will be modified for each piece. So for instance, the pelvis will have 0 and the torso will have 1, and because it's inheriting from number 1 in the section, I'll get to that. And the name is the name of like 01 pelvis for the pelvis and stuff like that. So you're going to use this mesh exporter like over a dozen times. So you're going to want to learn to get it figured out real quick. So once you have the mesh exporter open, you're going to have your pieces from your reference model, and you're going to copy them and move them over to the mesh, and you're going to want to click on them, enter edit mode, copy the name over that you've given it, and then check the parent header. So this is where you're going to want to get the human base.rfc or whatever you're using, and you're going to want to move it over to an RFC assembler, just drag and drop it. And then you have the chunks here. You're going to go into this, and then you're going to click on all of these. You're going to want to open it in HXD editor or something similar, and then put all of these in, and then just look them over, kind of figure out what they're all about. So you got the names right here: pelvis, belly, torso, chest, shoulder, right arm, right forearm. Also keep in mind that the Blender add-on is backwards, so this is the right shoulder. This is not a mistake. This is in fact the right shoulder because it's flipped on like a mirror. So everything like this should be the left shoulder, right left shoulder, but because it's mirrored, this is the right shoulder. And this is going to come out properly in game. So when you're looking at the data, the most important thing that you see is this name, its parent. So in this case, it's 00000. Here it's 1. It's parenting value 1, which in this case is the 0th position, and this is the pelvis. So the belly is inheriting from the pelvis. So the belly and the pelvis. That is how this is all set up. So for the head, this is just an example. You're going to find the head, which is like here position 11, and then you're going to copy the name over, which we have already done, and then you're going to check its parent, which in this case is 3, like so, and then you're going to make sure this is properly set, and then you're going to export it. You're going to go to your open chunks, such as here, then you go here, and then you remember what position it is. It's position 11, and then you export that, and you're going to repeat this for every part. So for instance, I just delete these because I got paranoid about whether or not they worked. They worked without having to delete them. No issues there. So for instance, this is the pelvis piece. We're going to change the head to 0, 1 pelvis. It inherits from nothing because it's the base piece, and we're going to leave it like this, and then export it to tutorial, human base chunks, and this is position 0 just because I remember it's right here, and then we export it, and then that's exported. So one last thing you're going to do is this is a header, and a lot of this data is like just related to like object position, so that it should be different. So for instance, a lot of the data here is different, but you'll notice that like this is not changed between them all. And so all you want to do here is you just want to copy this data from one of the original chunks, one of the unmodified chunks, and then just copy it over to the chunks you have modified. So this is not different. So this is the one thing that's different between the small object setting, which is what I used here.